Of course, sometimes it's difficult in the moment when you're asking questions, you're trying to be in a conversation to remember the next match that we're about to talk about today. But of course, it's FlyQuest Academy versus Evil Geniuses Prodigies we bring our attention to that one next. But first, quick shout out 2-0 for Dignitas. Cubby, congratulations on the correct prediction.
I think that was a really good series from Dig, and I think that this is a team where they are keeping up with the trend, which has been Dig just exceeding expectations all split. To be fair,
Yeah,
we didn't have a lot for this team. A lot of people had them as a 10th place Academy team. I think we still keep on seeing good points of improvement. I think specifically XU, Spawn, and Darkwings had a fantastic series. Really helped out with that 2-0. And at some point, we're going to have to start giving Dignitas the respect that they keep on commending for themselves with the performances they're putting up on the Rift. It's been really good to see.
absolutely. And Jolly, we bid farewell to Taco Gaming, but of course, we'll talk more about that at the end of the show. I'm sure that we can give another proper eulogy. But now let's bring our attention forward to the next match that we have ahead of us with FlyQuest Academy versus Evil Genius Prodigies. Another Academy versus amateur match, but Evil Genius Prodigies did not have to get through an Academy team on their journey to this point. So let's take a look at the brackets so we can catch everybody up on the journey that they have been taking. Because, of course, Evil Genius Prodigies had that close series against no team. That was the big story going into the day, that no team were favored in that one, Jolly, but still EGP did come out victorious.
Yeah, we saw in the interviews post that EGP was like, yeah, we shouldn't have even lost one game to begin with. Of course, no team definitely standing out as one of those potential dark horse teams. I think for me, it was trying to decide between no team and Taco Gaming as that dark horse, but EGP said, we're not going to take any of it. We're going to move forward. And now I think that they've got a pretty solid opposition in FlyQuest Academy who have been popping off recently.
Exactly. And Cubby, FlyQuest Academy's journey here, they were able to, win in the upper bracket, but then get knocked down here. The journey of this team still, it's been on an upswing. Towards the end of the season, they have been looking much stronger. So we do still have expectations from them. But we want to bring our attention to Evil Genius Prodigies first and really dive into this roster, dive into this team and what we can expect from EGP before talking about their Academy opponents on the Rift. When you look at this composition, when you look at this roster, Cubby, who are we looking as players that can be the engine to get them over that victory line?
When you have someone like Daption on this team, I know it's an amateur squad, but keep in mind, he took 5th, 6th in Proving Grounds. Last year is his 3rd time qualifying with an amateur team, but I think the big piece, the one that really excites me, and the one thing that I think all the LCS 3rd teams got right, was actually their top laners. And I think that EGP really found a hidden gem in Faisal, who has been having a really, really good tournament. It's been really good to see him performing really well.
And we actually had a chance to sit down and chat with Faisal, so we're going to send over to that to actually hear from the player himself.
But we should have 2-0'd, but something happened in game 2, like we won't talk about it. But being in the lower bracket means that we get to get more experience to get Academy teams, which is very good because we have some new players on our team, so that experience will help a lot. Honestly, I don't think the Academy teams are like that scary. Like, I don't think they were anything special when I versed Golden Guardians. I think it was definitely winnable if we just played better. But like on the day, we were kind of not playing better, so I think it's winnable for sure.
Winnable for sure, it says Faisal. Of course, hit challenger for the first time in Season 8 with Olaf top lane. I remember that happening at the time.
That's cursed.
Yeah, that's a really cursed one right there. But also, French speaking. An award for French speaking in grade 5. Why can't we have Mazel on the broadcast? The French.
I guess it's just a Canada diff.
It could just be the Canada dip. But it's incredible to see Faisal's journey so far. Yeah. And again, Jolly, when we talk about EGP, this is a team, if they're not afraid of Academy teams, that's already a good start to this series.
Oh, and you know what? Honestly, it feels like they are right up there with the rest of the Academy teams, right? This is not surprising. They've got the organization backing, and they've got a lot of veterancy under their belts with the players that we have here. These are people that we're really familiar with. If you've been around the Academy scene, the amateur scene for quite a while, even, of course, the pro scene for some of these players to come in as substitutes. So you got a good feeling going into this one. But again, man, FlyQuest has been showing so much prowess, and I think that's something they have to watch out for.
Exactly. And now as we bring our attention over to their opposition on the Rift, we can talk about FlyQuest Academy, Cubby. This is the team I hinted at the beginning. They were starting to hit their stride towards the later half of the spring split, but then they did lose their series in 2-0 fashion to Team Liquid Academy in the upper bracket. How much can you really, base that against them, though?
Honestly, for me, I know that, we all picked our dark horses. I definitely picked no team because, I had to vote with my heart like at least once. If I was voting with my brain, though, I would have picked FlyQuest. I think when you look at what FlyQuest has played, how they've played, and then who they've played against so far in this tournament, they beat the top amateur team, 100X 2-0. Then they lost to who I thought was the tournament favorite, Team Liquid 0-2. And those were close games. Like, they almost bounced back in both of those mid games. I know from talking with Diamond, they looked back and said, hey, it was just a few team fights, didn't go our way. Like, at any moment, if we win those, that's a different outcome. It was a very close series despite the 2-0 score. And I think if FlyQuest continue with that play, continue with this momentum coming into the lower bracket, they're the team that on this side of the lower bracket, I expect to get to the best of fives. I favor them against Dignitas. I favor them in this series today. Ooh. I think these guys have been playing really good League of Legends, and I hope that continues on the Rift.
You're doubling down on it now that you didn't have them as your dark horse. But let's take a look at one of the players that we think can really help them get across the finish line here. A player that didn't really draw our attention in the earlier parts of the spring season, but has been impressing us more and more. That is Spyrax in the mid lane. Played in collegiate for Maryville University. He was subbing in for them last year. But then, of course, now he finds himself all the way here on an academy squad. And Spyrax has been improving, and Spyrax has been impressing.
Spyrax! Oh my god. So you go ahead. I can talk about this guy all day, Cubby.
I know that you got, the collegiate background, Jolly, but I think what we've seen out of Spyrax in Academy, much like Darkwings, we're starting to just see him come into his own. He is someone that was insanely flexible when it comes to his champ pool. 2 accounts in the top 30 at Challenger. Didn't make it to Scouting Grounds because he had too many champions that he was playing. He didn't have enough games on his main champs, and I think that as we get later in the season, as him, Yuji, Philip, all keep on picking up, just playing competitively at this level, we're starting to see more better moments out of Spyrax. And, it's someone that we knew that he had the solo queue pedigree to make it into Academy. It was just about, how is he able to develop into that competitive fives player? And I think that the more looks we're seeing out of Spyrax, the better things get for FlyQuest. And his play in the mid lane has been a big part of the reason that I feel like they are the team to look out for in this side of the lower bracket.
Exactly. And again, a reminder that 0 Proving Grounds appearances, or rather Scouting Grounds appearances, is because of what Cubby had just said. He played too many champions at a high level, and that actually, unfortunately, ducked him under the champion limits that you had to play a certain number of certain champions. So Spyrax is definitely a player that we want to highlight going into this one. And with that said, I'm hearing that we're ready for pick and ban now. So I'm going to pass it over to Jolly and Cubby to get us underway for game number 1.
Thank you very much, Kangas. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I could talk about Spyrax all day. I've seen him plenty. I think this is another one of these mid laners that we've seen struggle in the past with just being too aggressive, like overly, kind of stepping over their bounds, I guess, and getting caught out a few times. That has not been the case. Like you mentioned, Cubby, he's really come into his own recently. He's able to play safe. He's doing the fancy footing that we've seen coming out of some really good mid laners, like even today in Darkwings.
And I think that, part of the evolution of FlyQuest has been they're able to play more strats. This is a team where in Academy regular season, I thought they were really good at picking mid to late game team comps, trading across the map early to avoid the skirmishes, avoid the volatility, scale into the game, and then play out team fights clean from there. I think one of the evolutions of FlyQuest has been their ability to play mid-jungle. Yuji is someone that, was historically an assassin player, coming in from solo queue himself. He has maybe the most insane solo queue pedigree that we've ever seen enter the North American Academy scene, given the fact that he hit Challenger on the Ionian server, on EU West, all with like over 100 ping. And now as Yuji just continues to evolve into that competitive jungler, watching these guys play Diana Yasuo, watching Spyrax get on the Akali, these are the champions that we knew Spyrax for from his time with Maryville when you were covering him, Jolly. And seeing him return to that, FlyQuest expand their strat book for this tournament, another reason I'm really excited about FlyQuest going into today's games.
Yeah, and actually, did we even bring up our predictions that we had for this one? Because I think
no,
you and
I have FlyQuest 2-0.
I have FlyQuest duo as well. Honestly, you know what? I gave a little bit more leeway. I wanted to see the amateur team, at least in Taco Gaming, because they kind of appeared as more of a dark horse. But when you are going up as EG Prodigies against a team like FlyQuest Academy, who put up a great showing against Team Liquid Academy, who is by them and Cloud9 are by far kind of considered the top teams right now in this bracket, at least in the upper bracket, it's gonna be a struggle. We'll see if EGP is capable of taking a game, even maybe the series for themselves here, as they start with some pretty strong picks. I love it. The Tryndamere, the Diana, these are aggressive.
I want to get right into the pick band. So the Viego pick, I should say, one of the more successful champions for Yuji, and also take away from Perry. But this from EGP, throwing down the Diana early and the Tryndamere, it's something that Faisal and Leo can flex and have already flexed in the tournament. I'm curious to see what the response is from FlyQuest, and it looks like they just want to take a power pick in the bot lane. Jinx is off the table. Want to make sure that Tomo gets the hands on the Zeri. And Spyrax, that trusty Ahri, played it in both games where he won over 100 Thieves. Next, we saw the highlight reel. It is one way to get out of the Moonfall from Diana. But this could easily set up for a Yasuo. If EGP want to commit to playing that into the Ahri, it is a matchup you can win with that win wall. You have that Diana. Instead, not going to be the Yasuo, just going to maintain that Tryndamere flex throughout the draft. They're going to take that Nautilus. We talked about being so important into the Zeri. Having that depth charge into both Zeri and Ahri does give EGP the opportunity to try and capitalize off of these big team fights and make sure that these very mobile carries for FlyQuest can be locked down with that depth charge.
Exactly. You have the depth charge. You also have, you know, even just the dredge line to try to help this Diana set up for the Moonfall, pull these enemies back in. And that's really going to restrict the mobility that they do have. Of course, you got to watch out, because there's a lot of good mix here for FlyQuest Academy in early game and late game abilities. EGP currently, with what they've locked in, looking a little bit more towards the late game, so they have to sustain themselves a bit at the early parts.
So EGP, they have a support. FlyQuest doesn't. Going to take away some supports from the side of Diamond, who has a very large champion pool, by the way, but it seems like they just want to take away that main engager that he likes in the Leona, whereas FlyQuest, they have their marksman. No marksman on the side of EGP, so they're at least going to take away the Xayah. We'll see if EGP decides to rock with the Kaisa. It's something that I feel like you can play in the Zeri and combos very well with the Nautilus in lane. You can also sync up with the Diana ultimate going in, trying to get access to that backline, something that I think EGP are looking to do with this comp, and it would help you maintain that Tryndamere flex.
And Sketch does really well with the Kaisa as well, as we see the first hover come through. It's actually Misfortune, who we have not seen much of at all recently, and that's actually going to be the lock in here for EGP. You know what? I'm a fan of new spicy picks.
So it's kind of emerging into the meta as this Eclipse. You can go the lethality build, your E, of course, and the ultimate, huge zone control tools. And something that, I mean, this syncs up really well with depth charge. We talked about locking down those squishy mobile squishy members of FlyQuest. Something that they can do. But that said, I love this Gragas pick for the side of FlyQuest. Philip has been really good on tanks. That zone control you get, trying to cancel that bullet time, it lanes really well into the Tryndamere. I like this a lot for FlyQuest. Talked about how they like to neutralize teams, try and get to the later stages. Tahm Kench would also fit that identity. Can take Zeri out of that Diana combo. And now we're just going to have to see, does Leo throw down the gauntlet? Does he go for something like that Yasuo? Or are we going to see that Tryndamere flex mid and get a good matchup into the Gragas on the top side, which could easily be something like an R or Aatrox this game?
Yeah, Faisal, another one of those that has a very deep champion pool, has a lot of options right now with this matchup, as we can see. Maybe try to match some of the speed, right? You got the Gnar, the Gwen hovers, you got the Mundo hovers. Now, of course, GP, heavy aggro is what EG Prodigies are looking for. And as you kind of considered right there, that first pick being a flex between Faisal and Leo, going to be going into Spyrax.
And this is a Faisal special. His Gangplank, it's 3-0. We haven't seen it yet in Proving Grounds, but it's been fantastic in Amateur. And I tease that Faisal, you know, I feel like the third LCS teams we had make Amateur orgs. You had Hunter next with Sniper, you had IMT AoE with Anime Girl, and EGP with Faisal. I feel like all three of these orgs really got their top lane choice right for who is on this roster. And Faisal, given this last pick, given the counter into the Gragas, and given one of the champions that he has found the most success on in Amateur, it really speaks to how much he means to this team. And we're going to have to see if Faisal can step up to the occasion and be the big carry that EGP needs him to be in this one. Because when I look at FlyQuest, if they are able to kind of use the Cannon Barrage, slow down the fights, maybe buy some space for the Tryndamere, you can knock around, or at least, you know, if you hit one of the barrels on the Zeri, you can really slow her down and prevent her from skating all over your team like we saw Spawn do in the last series on Dignitas. The Gangplank, it's not something we see as much of at the moment, but it's definitely something that FlySol's proven that he can play, he's comfortable on, he has a real opportunity to step up in this game, utilize that counter pick for the good of his squad.
Oh my gosh, just so much late game ability, but I like the fact that there are still 1 or 2 picks for both of these teams that allow them some early game pressure. For FlyQuest, it's a little bit more towards the mid lane. For EGP, we're looking a little bit more towards the bottom side to try to get a little bit of a snowball rolling downhill for either team, but both of them looking really good going to the latter parts of this game. So the expectation, at least for game number 1 here, is a relatively slow start, but we also know Harry, Yuji, very aggressive junglers.
Yeah, I think looking at both of these comps, I actually kind of like what EGP has early. When you have the bullet time plus the depth charge, you have the potential to really lock someone down. I think as things go later, Tryndamere has the opportunity to side lane, but you're going to get outscaled by the Zeri. That Gragas is so tough to deal with once he gets a couple items under his belt, really hard to move, and the zone control that he brings in team fights. It's a good chance for FlyQuest to try and split up EGP. So I'm looking at EGP. If I'm in their shoes, I'm looking to get flashes out of FlyQuest early and keep on punishing. Whenever that depth charge is off cooldown, use it on whoever's lacking that flash. Try and snowball the game, play fights fast from there, and really punish flashes being down on the side of FlyQuest. Whereas if I'm FlyQuest, looking to play a little bit slower early, get the Zeri to 2 items where it's really tough to take her down, and then go from there.
And a lot of facilitators as well once it actually comes to the later game, once it gets to these team fight stages, right? Sure, hitting level 6, you have a lot of opportunities for EGP. It's not even necessarily this hard crowd control so much as it is just these stacks of crowd control that they're able to apply. The slows, the fears, whether it's FlySol, Leo, Sketch, it doesn't really matter here because they can continuously stack on top of each other. I do love the safety, though, that we also have on the side of FlyQuest, right? Philip, who's going to be pretty self-sustainable. Diamond, who's going to be able to save Tomo from a lot of these scary initiations. So, you got to kind of consider both sides of this for the early game portion.
Yeah, that's another thing that we can bring up. Just the fact that, Tom Kench, that is one way to save you from EGP talked about them trying to really punish flashes being down. When you have Diana, you have Nautilus. If a flash is down, you can press so quickly in the game and really force a lot of fights, speed up the pace of the game. That's why Diana Yasuo is so good. If you're missing flash, you just die off cooldown. But Tom Catch is one way to get you out of that. And so I like that pick from Diamond. I feel like FlyQuest took a couple of neutralizers at the end, something that kind of fits the identity that FlyQuest has as a team. And I want to see if they can continue to show what have been really good mid games from FlyQuest. I think they've really stepped up in that category. I know that speaking with Diamond earlier in the split, there was at one point, I think it was like week 5 or 6, he was like, we were like winning early games, and then we just like randomly throw in mid game. I think that FlyQuest has kind of turned that from a weakness into a strength, and I want to see if that can continue against the amateur squad of Evil Geniuses.
Yeah, we kind of saw that, previously up against Team Liquid when FlyQuest actually fell here to the lower bracket. So there were so many times where Team Liquid had the early parts of the game, and that middle was sort of turned around. These big gold differentials that they had held above them were minimized to maybe 1,000-2,000. If not, it was actually transitioned over to their favor. And then it's 1 or 2 team fights that ended things, of course, up against a team like Team Liquid. You got to watch out for those. But I think this is the opportunity now for FlyQuest to say any mistakes that are made by Evil Geniuses, we are the ones who are going to be capable of punishing.
Yeah. Now, of course, we are on a pause. We do have a couple players that there's a ping differential. We have one player using the bathroom before we get the game started. So hopefully that means we get things figured out, sorted out, so we can hop into the second series of our day here quickly. Of course, just want to remind everyone of the stakes while we still have a pause before we dive into the action. It's a lower bracket best of 3. Loser is done. Winner plays the winner of the previous best of 3 that we just had, which would have been Dignitas Academy, 2-0 over Taco Gaming. And if you make it into that part of the lower bracket, you're just one best 3 win away from entering the best of 5 stage. And I know from talking with a lot of these Academy players, they're so excited about playing best of 5s on stage. It means a lot to these guys to be able to, play those high stakes matches. So not only being rewarded with getting further into the tournament, getting some more games, some more prize money, but also even some more games in the series that we have.
Especially if you're in the lower bracket, because the risk otherwise, if you're not moving forward to those best of 5 games, then you're actually out of the tournament in the overall. That is all that we are covering here today. So now some anticipation for the teams that have already made it forward. And of course, one of these teams is going to end up going home and not being able to participate in those best of fives. The question is, will it be FlyQuest Academy or will it be Evil Geniuses Prodigies? We are back into the game. Everybody has used the restroom. Bio breaks are over. That means we should be good for the rest of this one, Cubby.
Say bio breaks?
Bio breaks. That's what. Yeah, that's my new. That's the new thing I've learned from doing other broadcasts. Wow. Bio break.
That is all right. I don't know if I like it or not. We'll think about it a little bit more, Jolly. But I do appreciate the flair. Do want to hit on where our junglers are starting real quick. Gonna have both junglers starting on their respective blue buffs, so mirrored matchups. Expecting Diana to go for early full clears, and the real question is whether or not UG decides to get up in the face of Diana and slow down this jungler from just power clearing, something that Diana does so well.
Philip and Faisal just playing around here. Faisal, of course, going to have some early pressure on this one until Philip is able to get his sustainability. Another big reason that he picked this one. A deep barrel. Can he chain it up? He's going to be able to. And this is where Faisal really gets to flex his muscles on picks like this and continue to be aggressive. Daption finding yet another dredge line here onto Diamond.
Like the fact that each of our teams are trading early, especially in the top side for Faisal, making good use of that Tryndamere flex. As Leo doing what his team needs him to do. And as I mentioned, this is something that EGP did actually against No Team in game one, where they won. It was Gragas being flex top for the Faisal. They took the Tryndamere mid for Leo. Found a lot of success in that. We'll see if EGP can rinse and repeat. And for our fans at home, just a reminder, we are still on patch 12.5. So the Tryndamere nerf's not live. We are on the tournament realm. We're going to be playing on that patch for the entirety of the tournament.
He is still very busted right now, and we normally see him towards the top side. I think Leo is one of those few that is willing to take him into the mid with how strong some of these sorcerer picks are right now. Of course, we've been seeing a lot of LeBlanc, we've been seeing a lot of the Ari, we've been seeing a bit of the Vex coming through, and that is part of the reason why in the early parts of this game, Spyrax is going to have a lot of opportunities to try to pick off Leo before he hits level 6.
Yeah, and honestly, props to Leo. So far, he's even in CS, and things are okay. Now, the one bummer is that Perry did go for the full clear and did miss out on that top crab. So it is looking that UG, because he took the clear that he did, able to sneak up to that top crab, actually going to get a double crab on the Perry. And Perry looking to dive into the top side jungle of UG. Not going to find any of the camps as UG has already cleared them out. So clever path from our young jungler over here for FlyQuest. Going to get him a little bit of an early win.
And 2 scuttle crabs. He's able to pick up both of those on the top and the bottom side here. You got to feel pretty good. That is you. The pings, of course, coming out now, maybe towards the bottom side. FlyQuest wanting to make a move on that, but not able to pressure it any farther than they already have. A pretty decent lead that Tomo currently has over his opposition in Sketch, who just had to burn a heal to stay alive through the Ignite.
Meanwhile, I do want to revisit the top side. Faisal went for the 3-wave crash in the base, get a Cole, cheat a recall. Next spike you want to hit as the GP. Really want to get to that Sheen. So I think Faisal is going to try and stick it out in the lane until he gets to that point. And you can see Faisal just really trying to trade the trial by fires and make sure that he's chaining these barrels. Chunking out Philip, has a lot of sustain on the Gragas, but Faisal doing a good job of showing why they opted for this matchup. On the top side is where a Sketch.
Oh my goodness, look at that. Nice little abyssal dive coming through from Diamond. That's going to force the flash out of Daption. Sketch still has his available. Perry on the move now.
Perry was spotted.
Good recognition right there by Tomo and Diamond to stay safe.
Look at the trinket by the Gromp. There's no Gromp for Perry. You can see a blue trinket there. So FlyQuest, they realized this. They saw Perry skirt through the jungle. So FlyQuest, that bot lane, Tomo Diamond showing some of that experience. Really good from them, whereas Faisal getting a little bit greedy trying to stop a base, but Philip, he has no mana. So Faisal unable to be punished, and a good play from him. Keeps Philip around a little bit longer.
Yeah, he does. It was Philip's choice, of course, there. He likely could have just continued with the recall and then teleported up if he wanted to, but trying to get as much damage down onto Faisal as possible to force the recall out of him and the teleport as well, kind of match things up here in this level. As we can see, mid lane getting closer and closer to hitting that level 6, and as soon as Leo does get access to the Undying Rage, we can guarantee that he's going to look for an all-in on Spyrax.
Tough to all in that Ari with the charm, but it's something that Tryndamere, of course, always has the potential to do, Jolly. Have to keep our eyes out for that. But overall, it's been kind of a quiet early game. That's something that I feel like it's interesting because I feel like EGP is really waiting for 6 and trying to hit that hard. But I think overall, this is really good for FlyQuest. We did tease that we like the scaling of their composition as this game moves forward. The fact that they have in pretty much an even gold game. They're going to get this first dragon for free, thanks to the good play coming out of Tomo and Diamond. I think it's everything that FlyQuest could have asked for early.
It really is, and that was kind of the expectation that we had coming into this. At least I did, of a slow early game. That was something I talked about before the game actually started. We're gonna have to see if Perry can make this one happen. He does not have level 6, and no Moonfall available. So we can see Philip and Faisal both do after using their teleports heading back into this lane. But Perry, he was able to poke a little bit of fun onto this top lane, maybe give a bit of pressure over to Faisal.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Perry really doesn't have anything else to do on the map. You can see his bot camps are just now spawning. But instead, Perry actually not going to base and go for the bot camps instead. Faisal has a big lane that he's crashed, and going to use that to come help his jungler invade and take away the blue buff of UG. So good team play coming out of EGP. Yes, it's a dragon going over to FlyQuest, but he's going to get a blue buff in return.
Yeah, good play. You can see UG, of course, right after the recall, he had pinged. I'm going to be moving towards this blue side. Faisal maybe moving a bit forward, manages to get one of those shots off onto UG, though. Spyrax in a good position to potentially get a charm here onto Perry. It's actually Faisal
really
on the
nice
backside who's going to be able to use that cannon barrage to ensure that all of FlyQuest has to break away from this fight. In the meantime, what a lockdown by Diamond. He's forcing the flash out of Sketch in a solo play.
And this is huge for the side of FlyQuest because EGP, I look at all of the creeps are going to lose on the bot side. Look at this wave. It's going to be free place going over to Tomo. This is the big carry for FlyQuest moving late. The fact that Daption tried to rotate up for that play and FlyQuest were able to disengage it for free, I think really important for FlyQuest they were able to do that.
Feeling pretty confident with the composition that they've got. We're getting close to that 8-minute marker. Not a ton of pressure has been made to any of these towers. I don't think a single plate has gone down, and that's part of the slow play that we were just talking about here, Cubby, where it really is just kind of sustainability, getting as many levels as you possibly can, waiting for the potential maybe to TP to a team fight, but we can see Spyrax already used his.
And FlyQuest again, I love this. This is just really good macro play coming out. This wave from Philip, he was able to chunk out Faisal. Part of this is, you know, an answer to what just happened. The fact that EGP tried to find that skirmish and couldn't find it, but FlyQuest are punishing Philip, able to deny some creeps, and more importantly, UG, that's the second big neutral they're able to take for free. Now, for the side of Evil Genius's Prodigies, at least Perry has 6. This is where Perry can start to look for plays, but once again, because that skirmish went wayward, he isn't keeping up with his camps, and UG gonna get up in Perry's face and punish that. Has all of his camps up, gonna take the red, and now Sketch is dead.
Big play here. Sketch is going to be able to get half of a second off on that bullet time. Can Tomo at least pick up the one? He will end up going down. The kill goes over to Daption, who has to flash away. Diamond should be able to collect this one himself. The nice shield, though, out of Daption. It forces a flash out of Diamond in response, and Diamond's not able to get the 2.
Still, kill going over to Tomo, whereas the kill went over to Daption for EGP. And the fact that you get the wave in as well, I think that's well worth it for the bot lane of FlyQuest. As we're going to take a second look. This was closer than I thought, because Sketch ended up hitting 6 on this creep. FlyQuest still decided to go for it. And once this connects, it's so tough for EGP with Sketch. Missing the sums from the previous play that Diamond made in the top side. Keep in mind, he got that flash out with the Ignite when Daption was going for the roam. So the consequences of that being felt for EGP down bottom, and a good play from FlyQuest, that's them a little bit of a lead in the pockets of Tomo.
Just a tiny bit of a lead, though. It's pretty negligible at this point in the game. It is. It's true. It's on the right person. Still not enough pressure to really make a lead in terms of plates. And when we're talking about gold, that's where it's definitely negligible. However, picking up at least the one on somebody like Zeri, when we're talking about the scaling already, the potential for this FlyQuest team leading into the later game, you gotta feel good if you are Tomo, who has just been an exceptional player. That and Diamond as kind of, you know, the IGL here for this team. A big standout shot caller and player, does a lot of roam as soon as it's possible. The more confidence you give Tomo, the easier it is for him to explore the map.
I know that from speaking with Diamond before this set too, you know, I asked him, was like, hey, you know, like, what have you guys learned from dropping down to the lower bracket? Like, what can you guys bring to the table? And he said, you know what, especially like when it comes to facing amateur teams, he says a lot of times, you know, they just don't have the macro down yet. Like, they will trip over themselves, and we feel like we're a team that's good at punishing that. But what Diamond also said is that, you know, him and Tomo in this lower bracket, they're not scared of any bot lanes they're going up against. And this is a bot lane that, you know, they've won a split of Academy before, thinking back to their time at C9. These guys, really strong players. Tomo himself had an average gold diff of 15 of plus 166 in the Academy regular season. I thought that Tomo especially picked it up towards the back half of the split, and seeing him and Diamond, show some experience to step up early has been really good. As Diamond finds the save, and that's the Tom Kench. Coming out strong. This might be a dragon for EGP, but still, I think FlyQuest will take that trade.
Yeah, there it is. That's all you need, right? As long as you can get something out of Diamond there. Tomo still has the ultimate available in his backpack if he wants. It's going to be Daption that starts this engage on to Diamond, who ends up taking a lot of damage here, giving a kill directly over to Sketch, and that means FlyQuest has no opportunity to counter this dragon play.
I could see why FlyQuest might want that play, but I think they pushed up a little bit too early. Spyrax was still rotating, was never able to get there as that dredge line goes wide. No more play to be had in the bot side, but hey, props to EGP. They utilized some of that good macro to make sure they pick up a dragon for themselves. That's good stuff.
At least tying that one up, and that is going to give them a gold lead here. What an explosive cast coming out of Philip to keep himself alive. All it would have taken is one more auto from Faisal, and he would have died, but the flash is being mirrored right there, ensures that Philip doesn't go down, and does have his teleport, depending on how he wants to use that.
I mean, it was also one more cannon barrage hit, Jolly. I mean, if that ended up connecting, I think Philip goes down, so really, honestly, well played by both top laners. I think the preemptive flash from Faisal opened up the window, but Philip flashing out at the last second to make sure that he lives. Returning on the map, though, FlyQuest, keep in mind they did get that first Herald. Yuji has been sitting on it for a while, and we talked about how Tomo, Diamond, they've been able to find a lead for themselves on the bot side. Yuji going to help accentuate that, drops the Herald down bot, and this should be first brick in favor of FlyQuest Academy.
Even better, you are feeling if you are Tomo. That bonus gold, about a minute still, too, left on those plates. So I believe all of those plates ended up going to Tomo, who was there with the fall for each of them. Diamond more than okay with supplying this kind of global pressure that we were talking about that he's capable of doing. Probably not a second charge to come off of this one, but we can see FlyQuest is trying to pressure, and there it is. Yeah, no opportunity for Daption or Sketch to prevent that big pressure from FlyQuest on the bottom side of the map.
Really like the power play, and it's just, again, FlyQuest. And not only is it a good play for them, but it's also resources going to the right people. And this is something that I really credit FlyQuest Academy for. They're a smart team. The fact that they're funneling the Zeri, this is the big late game carry. If it's not going to be locked down by the Nautilus depth charge, Tomo can run rampant on this champion. And the more accelerated you get Zeri, the more difficult it is to take her down first, even if you are utilizing all those tools that EGP has available to them to try and attack this pick.
Ooh, Diamond being super aggressive on this one. He's going to go in and get the tongue lash off. Actually forces the heal out of Sketch, who wants to play really safely. He had an idea that Yuji was somewhere in the wings, even though that recall was coming through. We can see the pings now coming out in recognition that this is the official recall. That allows Sketch to provide a little bit more pressure here on the bottom side, but it's already transitioning to the team fight stage right after we hit 14 minutes here, and that force is coming through out of EGP.
And I think that, one of the things we talked about early, Jolly, was EGP looking to push the pace with Nautilus and Diana. We are now, level 9, level 7 on each champ respectively. We've yet to see, the only proactive play we really saw was around that dragon. And the only flash that's down for FlyQuest, it is Phillips in the top side. I want to see them try and push the pace as Daption. That's a good attempt. But does get the flash to Spyrax. That will be a trade. I argue a trade up for the side of EGP. And they're going to try and use the fact that they just got that flash. Try and snowball this into the Rift Herald. Keep in mind, Spyrax still doesn't have ult. That's a really big cooldown that's down for the side of FlyQuest Academy. And I think that's enough for EGP to just brute force this down. So good macro play coming out of our amateur scene. Absolutely.
Able to pick up that. And it's really kind of countering these objectives that are coming through early on for FlyQuest. Once you hit, the 20-minute mark basically for this EGP team, you're feeling really good, right? Once you got 2 items under the belt for Leo, for Perry, for Faisal, you're feeling good, but then the scaling on the other side kind of favors FlyQuest later in the game, right? So there's a sort of a mid-game spike available here for EGP if they play their cards right.
And that is another flash they took off the board in Spyrax. Now, of course, that ultimate keeps you rather mobile, but I like EGP. Again, trying to focus this. Spyrax still doesn't have ult. This could be a good window for Perry.
It's going in. It's a nice charm there on to Perry, but Spyrax cannot do much to stand up against that. Just too much damage and a nice response from EGP. Hey, this is where they need this spike, right? They're finding it.
No, this is really, really good gameplay coming out of EGP. We talked about getting flashes out. Daption trades flash for flash. Immediately they see Spyrax up top. They know that that ultimate's still down for that wave. And Perry goes up top and they punish. This is really smart play coming out of our amateur team, and something that, they're going to have to continue if they want to keep on crawling back into this one, utilizing this comp that we feel like spikes this portion of the game, Jolly. And hey, they have another opportunity to do so around this dragon. Spawns in 20 seconds. We do have a Cloud Soul on the Rift. Faisal just picked up some extra gold. He has Cannon Barrage on the top side. I want to say if EGP continues to push the pace, utilize Depth Charge on a target that doesn't have Flash, and try and utilize the lower cooldowns of the Diana ultimate too. Once that gets back up for Perry, I think it's an angle where EGP could look for that big MF combo.
And FlyQuest doesn't have any teleports up and available right now, even though they have the advantage in the overall, considering their mid laner does. A nice lockdown there by Philip. He's going to follow it up with the explosive cast, hitting the blast cone to ensure Perry is not able to escape from this one. Throw the charm on top of it, and Spyrax is going to pick up one for himself.
Really clever play coming out of Philip. It shuts down any play that EGP can make around this dragon. Should be FlyQuest's good understanding coming out of our Academy squad again. Nice seeing these teams go back and forth a little bit as FlyQuest able to answer back. Will pick up this dragon for themselves.
Look at the vision, too, that EGP has managed to put down on that aggressive play. So they're looking towards the top half of the map. That, of course, means that FlyQuest is going to be able to take this dragon number 3 pretty easily for themselves. We are about to hit that 2-item spike that I was talking about that will likely go in favor of EGP. They still have a small lead on gold at the moment and are feeling relatively good in terms of CS across the map, aside from, of course, Tomo, who has had plenty of pressure on the bottom side of this map since the start of the game.
And once Tomo gets this Titanic Hydra, that's where things start to get difficult for the side of EGP, because it's just more and more health to get through, more and more damage for the Seri as well. And if you are on the side of EGP, you always have this option to split. We can see Leo and Faisal really trying to play out 3 lanes, get more resources on their carries, and they can win some of the side lanes just given the fact they have Gangplank and Tryndamere, but I really think this Gragas is like the ultimate neutralizer. And a big part of FlyQuest's identity in this tournament has actually been Philip, playing these tanks, the Scion, the Gragas. He's played them rather well. We saw that cute little blast cone outplay in the top side, Jolly. It's been a big part of FlyQuest, figuring out how they want to play as a team in this tournament. It's been Philip, taking some of those tanks and making a lot happen with them. But have to pause. You could see a skirmish pop out in the mid lane.
There's the flash out of Perry. Sketch is taking a lot of damage. A beautiful moonfall, though, to follow it up. The bullet time comes through. Diamond is able to go into stasis on this one on the backside. UG takes down Faisal. Adaption having to run out of this. The Undying Rage being popped, but it's a charm immediately response by Spyrax. That should be a big pickup. It's going to be Spyrax manages to get that one. No, Philip actually with the double kill. And a split fight goes entirely in favor of FlyQuest.
And they isolate Faisal on the top side, but then Philip, he arrives at the fight. That cask was huge at the back end, helps FlyQuest clean up. And, these were some of the issues we were talking about with EGP. How do you get onto this Zeri? It was a good engage. I mean, they throw everything they can on the Zeri after these two get chunked out. Adaption has the angle. They find the ultimate coming out of the Diana, but they just couldn't put things together in the end as Faisal gets split and then Philip splits everyone up at the end. EGP were too low from the initial skirmish that Tomo was winning out on, and things just fall apart for EGP as FlyQuest, slow, patient play, intelligent play, Jolly, just picks EGP apart in that fight.
So well done, and honestly, I cannot commend Philip enough. Yeah, I've seen plenty of Gragas pickups. It's been pretty common in the current meta. I don't know if I've seen consistent explosive casts that are this good over and over and over again. The moment it comes off a cooldown, Philip knows exactly how and where he's going to use it, and it's a relatively quick cooldown is the other side of that, meaning now that we are past the 20-minute mark, now that we're getting more towards this team fight stage of the game, Philip holds so much credence right now for the composition and the win conditions for FlyQuest.
Right, I mean, you think about the bullet time, chaining up with depth charge. Philip can break all that with a good cast.
Oh
and
my
Philip,
God.
even feeling himself here in the side lane now, Faisal, he's having a run for the hills against this Gragas as Philip 2-0-2 ahead of the power curve, making good use of it.
That was already back up, and again, the moment it comes off of cooldown, Philip says, yeah, I can use it, why not? The cooldown's low enough at this point, it's going to continue to decrease for me. I've got pressure from the rest of my team across the map, might as well take what we can get, and that is something that FlyQuest does not hold back on. If there is an opening, they're going for it.
Yeah, I also like the timing of it, just using it 2 minutes before the dragon, you guarantee that you have that cooldown up for the big objective fight, which I think FlyQuest still really wants, and it's something where, just good understanding for Philip as we are a minute and 20 away from another Dragon fight. And, you know, for EGP, again, the one perk of that last skirmish that they did drop in the mid lane, Jolly. Look at the flashes on FlyQuest. Talked about how important it is that EGP are able to target those flashes and utilize the depth charge, utilize the MF to try and punish those flashes being down. All the flashes will be down for FlyQuest minus Spyrax going into this next fight. So it is an angle where EGP could try and find a good depth charge, could try and split up FlyQuest and win the fight, and they're going to need to do so desperately before they continue to fall further behind against the scaling composition.
The other side of that, though, is Sketch and Daption. Yeah, they've got their flashes up. The depth charge would be great, but Sketch has been caught in some scary situations, and having to flash out of these situations is what they might be forced onto. So it's going to be the pressure, once again, starting out of FlyQuest here. Spyrax putting a lot of side lane on the top side. And really, that's what they need to do. That's what they've been doing throughout this whole game. They say, all right, we will just send Spyrax wherever. We'll send Tomo wherever. He's self-sustaining, and then maybe 3-man the rest of the team towards the mid side. And that's exactly what's led them to having such an advantage on just the map in general.
And curiously enough, actually, FlyQuest, they tried to make a play for that top inner turret. This will mean that they're late on the map for Dragon, but because EGP were trying to answer, they didn't get control over the bot side river. So FlyQuest, on this deploy, should be able to take this Dragon for free if they want it. All they have to do is just make sure that EGP aren't sneaking that Baron, which they aren't. And now it's a power play for FlyQuest as they're going to try and run down Perry and Leo on the top side. Tomo has that ult running.
Big damage coming out of Tomo. There we go. Spyrax going in. He's going to be able to use the Spirit Rush to supply some extra damage on the front side. Diamond, of course, manages to pick that one up. Still Ignite in his pocket. But that flash that we were talking about earlier is down for Spyrax. It's now available for UG and very close for Philip.
And while that's going on, FlyQuest, they went out on the play top side. They also pick up the Dragon. And it feels like EGP, like their timer's running out. It feels like they really weren't able to hit these Nautilus combos, utilize the power of this MF early. And MF also just being behind the power curve to Tomo. It's just made for such a difficult game for EGP. It feels like this Gragas and Tahm Kench is just really helping prevent the game plan that EGP had with those first few picks. And they don't really have an answer of how to get around these two.
Now, especially with the deep vision that we've seen FlyQuest has been able to supply for themselves, it just allows Philip, allows the entire team, but particularly Philip, my goodness, on this Gragas to run rampant however he likes to. He's going to miss the body slam there, but he does force the flash out of Faisal.
Even to take away both the bot side camps from Perry. I mean, at this point, EGP keep on slipping further and further behind in this game, Jolly. And it just feels like the consequences of really not hitting the spike that their comp had early. And credit to FlyQuest on, you know, not only dodging out of those windows, but also finding small plays to make sure that they get some gold in their pockets. And now can really use it to punish later as Faisal really getting pushed around here by Phillips Gragas.
Pushed around, thrown around, blown around, whatever you want to call that. Absolutely. He can barely navigate on his own. He has to anticipate that explosive cask is going to come on in. And look, it's already a quarter off cooldown, Cubby. This is absolutely insane that Philip has this much power across the map without needing anybody from his team to support him. And that just means when it actually comes to these full 5v5 team fights where we get all 10 members in the same place at the same time, Philip's going to be able to knock multiple members back into the team, setting Spyrax up and Tomo up to kind of stay safe on the backside.
Yeah, splitting up that death ball, splitting up that wombo, so important for FlyQuest. I mean, they've done a really good job of so far in this game, but you know, as we get further into this one, Jolly, do have to highlight Misfortune almost at the evolved Miramana.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if EGP decides to try and force around this Baron. I feel like it's really risky. They are behind at this point, but you gotta believe waiting for a Cloud Dragon fight to happen, I don't know if that's a huge benefit or a winning angle to them. So I'm kind of wondering when EGP decides to pull the trigger, decides to throw down, push, or at least try and push back against FlyQuest, because at the moment, it really feels like they're bleeding out.
And this is the problem, kind of what we were talking about too in the previous series actually between these teams, is proactive reactive play. Right now, it's forced reactive play out of EGP, so their decision to pull the trigger isn't really in their hands. Unfortunately, that finger is being held by FlyQuest. Perry is going to be the one that gets jumped on. He does save the life of Leo, but he has to sacrifice himself for that. In the meantime, Tomo is able to find out 2 members. He gets the bullet time there out of Sketch. He gets the depth charge out of Daption on top of it and stays alive at full health.
And I like how FlyQuest, they aren't trying to push for the Baron. They know that flip, you know, they don't need to take it. They can just stay in the lanes and play from there. And Yuji even going to pick up Faisal on the bot side, trying to rotate. Jolly, this game feels like it has been all FlyQuest.
It feels done and dusted at this point, too. And it's not a massive lead, right, in terms of at least gold that FlyQuest has held. But the pressure, the map presence has been entirely blue side this game.
Yeah.
That means that FlyQuest is going to be able to make a move onto this Baron, and there's really nothing that EGP can do about it.
This is a team that it feels like they just put you to sleep on the map, but then once they make their move, once they make their play, it's so calculated. And just given the fact they index towards late game, towards these mid to late spikes, it's really tough for teams to deal with if you don't come out punching against them early.
Even in this kind of situation, we'll see if Diamond can get out alive. It is a 4v2
Diamond's
opportunity now for EGP. He's gonna go down, but the rest of Evil Geniuses recognize that they have to get out. They are getting pinched. It's Spyrax on the backside. Perry goes into Stace. He's gonna be able to dodge out on the charm, but it's the ultimate on the backside by Spyrax. Picks up one Undying Rage, keeps Perry alive for a little bit. But Yuji with some huge plays to come through. Spyrax on top of that, just clean it up. And it's almost a clean one in favor of FlyQuest.
I mean, you got Diamond, but I feel like FlyQuest, you know, they're getting back the fact that IGL went down, right? It's the other 4 members coming together. I just love Philip the Cask splitting up the fights into Spyrax, just being able to target whoever's isolated, get the reset, go from there. Such a clean game from FlyQuest. Going to make this one end early.
Less than 30 minutes. This has been an unfortunate thing that we have seen happen to a lot of the amateur teams that go into academy teams right here. Really, really defiant in terms of the win that FlyQuest managed to take for themselves there towards the end. It looked really good to start out. EGP, FlyQuest, it was very back and forth. You had an objective going over one and then being tied up on the opposition. But at the end of the day, again, map control completely went in favor of FlyQuest, and they really took advantage of it.
Yeah, I was giving like some like thumbs up, thumbs down, like trying to you know, talk with production here real quick. They're cutting back and me just going like this. Like, oh no. I know I might have been flashing thumbs up at first, or thumbs down at first, but that's a thumbs up for me from FlyQuest. I think that, you know, a lot of this is just them, the identities that they've been able to play around with, you know, throughout this entire split. And, you know, I call it like a strat book, like kind of the drafts they're able to run.
Yeah.
It feels like they have a real core identity, but also some flexibility around it. And the way that this team just picks their spots and plays out the fights from there, I know specifically from talking with Diamond, you know, he felt like the difference about him not beating TLA in that series was just a few team fights. And if that's what FlyQuest were working on this past week, I think we saw some really clean team fighting out of them, utilizing the Gragas to split people up with the Ahri. Tomo was never pressured in those fights, Jolly, with that Tom Kench in his back pocket too. And FlyQuest made quick work of our amateur squad, who they made a couple decent trades in the top side towards that mid game and playing out the 3 lanes. But once FlyQuest figured that out, isolated it and problem solved from there, it was all FlyQuest. And we're gonna have to see if EGP, hey, we'll see if they can go deeper in their strat book here if we dive into game 2.
Yeah, we do have, at least for the predictions for you and I, we're feeling like this is a 2-0, but Evil Geniuses, Prodigies, they've shown that they can put up a decent fight, and we know that they can supply some fantastic gameplay for us. How well can FlyQuest navigate around that is the follow-up question here. We'll have to see, because this is a best-of-3 series between these two teams, and given the fact that Evil Geniuses, Prodigies fell in game number 1, they are going to have side selection here going into game 2. Their backs are against the wall, though, because FlyQuest Academy will be moving in with match point, looking to sweep this series out and give us 2 2-0s for the day. That's not necessarily what we want to see, but we'll have to find out. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. We will be back with more Proving Grounds powered by Verizon.